Hello everybody and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, where today we're back in the ES-30. I bought it for our own company, and yes, I figured out a way to avoid the glitches that have plagued this plane for a while. I watched back on the stream because I found it odd that sometimes the plane didn't have the weird backflip reverse thrust start, where you couldn't taxi the aircraft, and most of the time it always did happen that way. So I went back to look at the stream and I realized this is going to sound odd, but this one thing eliminates all of those weird bugs that happen on the ground. So we're going to go over here to this cargo door, open it up, and we're going to go ahead and just close the door again. For whatever reason, that one step completely eliminates all of the bugs regarding the ground taxi, the reverse thrust, and everything with the ES-30. And that's it. I don't know why that's the case, but I realized we opened it the first time I went into it in the live stream, and I was like, oh, maybe that has something to do with it for some reason, and long and behold, I've done, this is going to be the 10th flight now with our own ES-30, and I've had zero issues with it, and it's been fantastic. So a cutscene's going to be happening here, and then I want to showcase a couple things I do on the ground regarding maintaining our battery level, and we'll get to that once that cutscene rolls on through. Very nice. Alright, so what we're going to do here is, first off, hydraulic pumps are going to be off for our taxi. All of our high voltage batteries are going to be off, as well as low battery 1. I'm going to just stick with one low voltage battery, I should say, and we'll be ready to taxi. So let's get our taxi clearance first.
Nassau Ground CDWN 32 Bravo, Alpha Oscar 1314 with Foxtrot ready to taxi IFR.
CDWN 32 Bravo, Alpha Oscar 1314 taxi to and hold short of runway 14 using taxiway hotel. Contact tower on 134. Fife when ready.
Taxiing hold short runway 14 via taxiway hotel CDWN 32 Bravo, Alpha Oscar 1314.
And now if you've used the ES-30, you would know at this point, if you did the parking brakes released, don't know why I said it that way, it would freak out, it would go into reverse thrust, and just crash the plane. But now that we did that lovely little cargo door, so it must have something to do with it, like, I don't know why, but anyways, I'm glad I ran into that randomly, because we wanted to look at the plane in the live stream. But yeah, like I said, ever since I did that, never had any issues with this plane. It's been so nice finally flying it after just months of hearing people say that, you know, it's broke, and we ran into that in the live stream yesterday. And it was just bugging me. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense why it randomly happens. But just popping open and closing that cargo door in the back, that issue is 100% gone, and it's been just a blast flying this aircraft. And just so you know, the stuff I did with the engine and the battery, that has nothing to do with avoiding that glitch. It's just that baggage door. I just do this, that way I'm not running through my batteries while we're taxiing and so forth, especially if it's a bigger airport, you have a hefty taxi. There's no reason wasting so much of your battery power for that. So just thought I'd mention a couple of those little tips too, that I've kind of learned about as I just kept messing with the plane, seeing what's going on. I did change the name of our air transportation company. We got, oh, I did not mean to do that. We got Bovine Airways. Very nice. And we have our own custom tail now, because that does save in the sim as of Sim Update 1 Beta 3, which is pretty sweet. So we got Cowtown on the plane. We have a pretty much bugless ES-30 now. Shout out to that baggage door. Very much appreciate it. And we'll just have a nice flight in the Caribbean, or the Bahamas. I kind of forgot where I went, but it should be a nice flight wherever we are. So let's go ahead and hold short over here. Alright, I just realized we lose quite a bit of our battery still from that initial launch there.
Prepare for takeoff.
Well, I'll talk about the battery when we're in the air, so we're not having to talk over the AI. So let's go ahead and get onto the runway here.
Thank you.
We'll get battery 3 and 6 activated for our electric engines. We'll also get our hydraulic pumps back on, because if those are on, you're draining your low voltage battery. So that's why I turned those off. I failed to mention that. We'll get 1 notch of flaps in here. We have all of our lights on. Let's go ahead and get lined up on the runway. And then once we're in the air, I'm going to talk more about the battery system and why I made those changes. But let's have a beautiful flight, everybody, in the Heart Aerospace ES-30. This has a V1 rotate speed of about 115 knots, I believe. Trying to keep it nice and centered as much as possible. Alright, we're going to start pulling back.
V1 rotate.
There we go, we're already off the ground. One thing that's disappointing about this plane, though, is if I'm not hearing it, I don't know, but it sounds like there's like no ground effect or wheel noise or anything like that. So I'd like to see that changed. We'll bring those flaps up and retract the gears. Alright, flaps are back up. We're going to go ahead and turn off those hydraulics again. Because as I was saying, that does affect your low voltage battery.
Alpha Oscar 1314 contact Miami Center on 125.
Don't mind me going crazy on the incline. I was too busy talking there.
125.
And we'll get through all this ATC chatter really quick.
32 Bravo Alpha Oscar 1314.
And we're climbing to 11,000 feet.
32 Bravo Alpha Oscar 1314 is passing 1,500 feet, climbing 11,000 feet. CDW 32 Bravo Alpha Oscar 1314 Miami Center, altimeter tree 0. 04 radar contact. Continue to Freddy.
Continue to Freddy. Get this onto that. Perfect. That way when we meet up with our magenta line, which is actually in front of us. I think we're actually lined up with it. Perfect. Okay, well, don't have to worry about that. That works out perfectly. So cool. I think all the ATC chatter's done for now. And now I can talk about the batteries here. So the reason I turn off most of those high voltage batteries is because we have 8 of them. So, well, we actually have 6. These first 2 low voltage count as 1, 2, and then it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I just go down the list. So once these first batteries of 3 and 6 are drained, I turn those off, move to 4 and 7, and then so forth. You get the point. But I have this all turned off on the taxi because you don't need them. The turboprop engines we have are plenty to get you around the ground. And you're not wasting any battery there, of course. And once we finish our climb, I turn off all the high voltage stuff for the most part. If it's a bit of a longer flight, I turn these on periodically just to give us a nice boost in speed. But for short flights, these are pretty much off after the climb for a majority of the flight. And then same goes for the low voltage battery. Instead of having both of them on at the same time, I just have 2 on to start. Once that's drained, I swap over to 1 and go from that. And that's kind of the simple way of going through the battery system. Okay, we are definitely not on the nav system, by the way. We are still just kind of aimlessly turning. Let's go ahead and set up our heading then. I underestimated what I was doing here. It didn't go to GPS. I don't know why. I thought the nav was working, but that's okay. We'll just have that set to on. So just like any other aircraft, if you have the heading set to intercept the magenta line, once we reach that, it'll go out of heading and then follow our lovely waypoint that we have set. Just don't mind us going the opposite direction.
10,000 feet.
But I was really glad I randomly opened that cargo door, because that worked out perfectly to kind of put me in the right direction to figure... I don't, again, have no idea why that's the reason why it freaks out. It's weird, but hey, I'll take it, because I've been very much enjoying my time with this aircraft. It's been a blast. So let's go ahead and inform our passengers of cruise status, and we'll shut off the electric engines.
Good afternoon, ladies and gents. This is your captain speaking. Today, I'm assisted by co-pilot Robin Wong. Welcome aboard Flight BAO 1314 inbound to Cat Island. We are currently cruising at an altitude of 11,400 feet and at an airspeed of 150 knots. It's 2:37 p.m. On behalf of all crew members, we thank you for flying with us today. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the flight. Thank you.
Perfect. Good old 2 colon whatever time that said. But perfect. So the other thing that you always want to keep in mind too, we made the mistake of forgetting this in the live stream yesterday, but if these hydraulic pumps are not on when you start your landing, you're obviously not going to be able to control the flaps or your landing gears. So you'll want to make sure that these get turned on again. I'll mention that again once we get to our destination, but I thought I'd mention it here as well. So I moved up to the screens here just to kind of give you a bit of a guide as to what we're looking at here. The top 2 are the electric engines, which when you're in the air and you shut off all of the high voltage batteries, for whatever reason, they're still producing power, which I'm okay with. I'm not sure how this system actually works in real life. I'm not an expert in hybrid aircraft, but it's nice that when you're in the air, they're still doing something at least, which is great, and you're not losing out on your high voltage power. So I thought I'd mention that as well. Of course, when you do the high voltage power off completely on the ground, that's when they fully shut off, and you're not wasting power there, and you're just using the turbine engines as your taxi power. And speaking of, these are your torque meters for the turbos and the temperature for it. You got to be careful with these engines, because if you're redlining them for a long or an extended period of time, you will run into engine malfunctions. So you'll really want to pay attention to the torque that you're putting on those engines and want to avoid the engine malfunctions, of course. And yes, and then of course down here is your low voltage battery capacity. We're down to 78. I still feel like the battery drains faster than it should, especially the low voltage one. I understand high voltage because those are the ones powering those big engines, so I'm not too worried about that because you're really fully controlling that. But the low voltage just always drops rather quickly. It gets kind of worrying when you're doing a bit of a longer flight. Still need to tweak with that a little bit just to kind of see if there's other things I need to do regarding the battery system. But if you're just doing like an hour flight or so, you're going to be perfectly fine with the way I was showing it, where you just go ahead and toggle off one of the batteries, work with just one, and then switch over to it once that other battery is close to draining, and you'll be a-okay on your flight. So we are at cruise altitude. We are approaching our magenta line, and we are cruising at a nice 194 knots, which is lovely. One thing else I've noticed, I don't know, I can't speak English. I shouldn't have done this video at 10 o'clock at night. But anyways, one other thing. Some of the flight paths get really weird with this plane. Like it puts out some weird ones. So sometimes I cut through it. We'll just go through the full length of this just to increase our passive income outcome from our other aircraft. But other than that, we are pretty much fully set and ready to go. Let's go ahead and head outside for some lovely showcase shots. What an awesome plane, right? I mean, it looks cool, it sounds awesome. I'm glad we're finally able to fly it. I mean, yesterday was the first time I actually flew the plane at all, because people were saying how buggy of an aircraft it was. Most of you have been having it as a passive income, collecting dust in the hangar. So I really hope that this trick that's been working perfectly for me, regarding avoiding all of that nonsense on the ground and actually being able to fly the aircraft, hopefully that works for you as well. Keep in mind, I'm in the third build of Sim Update 1's beta, so if you're on the regular version of the sim, you know, not in a beta or anything like that, I'm not sure if it'll work the same, so just keep that in mind. But hopefully it does. Hopefully it works for everybody. That would be awesome, because it's a very fun plane to fly, and really hope you guys can actually enjoy it yourselves as well. So we are kind of a little far away from halfway, but we're almost there to our destination. We're going to go ahead and just kind of let the plane do its thing, and then we will reconvene when we get close. Right, co-pilot? You excited? Okay.
CDWN 32 Bravo Alpha Oscar 1314, you can cancel IFR. Continue VFR to your destination.
What was that? Oh. Okay.
Miami Center CDWN
Are we here?
32
Oh no, we're not.
Bravo,
I was
Alpha
confused. I'm
Oscar
like, okay.
1314.
Interesting.
Cancel IFR at this time.
CDWN 32 Bravo Alpha Oscar 1314 IFR flight plan is canceled. Radar service terminated.
Captain,
Squawk
this is Layla.
7000.
We're ready for
Maintain
in-flight
VFR.
service.
Frequency change
Mind if we
approved.
start?
Good day.
Good day to you. That was nice. But yes, I'm ready to start. Let's feed them the half peanut to everybody. So we're probably a good 20 or so minutes into this flight. We're already down to 60% left in the low voltage battery, which, by the way, let me see. So that must mean we have about 10 amps left in the first battery here. If I can go to the right spot. Don't know what I'm doing. There we go. We're about a quarter left on that. We may as well just switch over. We'll go to battery 1. But I still feel like it drains faster than it should. There might be something else that I'm missing that could be turned off as well. I'm not 100% on that, but doing the things that I showed in the beginning does help stop the drainage of batteries. Because if you have everything on at the same time and keep the hydraulics on, you're going to be draining through that battery very, very quickly. So just keep that in mind for those longer flights. I typically try to stay around at the most an hour and a half. But if it's anything longer, I kind of avoid those for now. Just because of how fast the batteries drain. I mean, you can still fly, but all your instruments are going to be off, and I don't recommend that. So just something to keep in mind. And since we're out of IFR, let's go ahead and descend already. I'm going to bring back our power just a bit. Let's head down to 7,500. Feels like a very good number to be at right now. So we'll do a nice slow descent of about 500 feet per minute. Bring that power back a little bit more as well. At the moment, we're probably a good, I'm gonna guess 32 nautical miles out. Oh, I was right with 40. I was closer with 40. Unbelievable. Anyways, our descent has begun. And everything's still going well. No major issues. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's lovely. I'm going to go ahead and increase our descent to 1,200 feet per minute. And let's go ahead and bring that selected altitude down to, you know what, let's go a little low here, 2,500 feet, because obviously the elevation of our airport is probably going to be around a pretty hefty number of, I'm going to guess 10 feet above sea level. Let's go ahead and see if we're right. And, oh, I didn't click on, that's why, hang on, there we go. Oh, I was a little overzealous. We have an elevation of 4 feet above sea level. And we're going to be landing from the west, so let's go ahead and break off of navigation. Let's get heading set up the way we want it to, which is going to be just to the right of us. Something like that. That way we'll be in a much better setup position to land at our airport. Oh. Okay. I didn't realize that was going to be that much of a turn. Hang on. Let me go ahead and bring that back just a little bit. And while we're doing that, let's get into contact with that airport so we can get that all situated before we get too close. So we need to go for Mike, Yankee, Charlie, Bravo. I'm going to assume the nearest airport list is going to be pretty light, and there it already is. New Bite. Tune into traffic on 122.80. And we will be landing on runway 9. For a full stop, please. I'm going to assume there's no tower.
Mike Yankee, Charlie Bravo, traffic CTWN 32 Bravo, Alpha Oscar 1 tree 1430 miles northwest 6400. Fort inbound to land runway 9er.
And I'm not shocked, there's no tower. At first I thought it was a dirt runway, but we're good. And we're still descending, we're still hanging around 192 knots. I'll bring the power back a little bit more. And bring that down to about 1,500 feet. Because we'll be in a pretty good position by the time we get level again. We should be around this area, so we can start making a slight turn. And what I'd like to do too is I bring in our electric engines again, just to have that extra power, just in case we need some extra oomph under our wings for landing. So I always bring those back up just before we get onto final. But everything else is pretty much set the way we want. We already have our landing lights on, which I forgot to turn off. So they may as well stay on, right, co-pilot? Alright, pop quiz. What was the one important thing I told you that you need to turn back on before we get into any situation of landing? Got 3 seconds. Wrong. Or right, depending on what you said. We need to get the hydraulics back on, that way we can get the flaps going and our gears down, of course. So we're still carrying a lot of speed from our descent here. I'm going to bring the power back pretty much almost close to idle. One thing you have to be wary of, at least with my Thrustmaster HOTUS 1, if you bring the throttle all the way back to idle, it kicks into reverse. So you don't want to go all the way back. I mean, it might be different depending on what peripheral you're using, but just thought I'd mention that just in case. So hydraulics are back on. I'm going to wait till we get to about 150 knots to bring in our first notch of flaps, and then go from that. And once we turn final, we'll get those gears down. Doesn't take too long for them to deploy. And as I said as well, I'll bring those in once we're set up, actually. I'm not too worried about it right now, because we have a lot of great speed going on with just our turboprops going on. Of course, now we're going to lose quite a bit of airspeed since we leveled out. Our descent is complete. We're about 8 to 10 nautical miles out from our destination. We've reached our 150 knot mark I was wanting to, so let's go ahead and get our first notch of flaps in. I'm going to guess our airport is probably in this clearing here, or possibly even here. There might be something, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that clearing there. That's kind of what it's looking like. You got the beach here that we're seeing. airport will be right over there. Perfect. So, we got a couple notches of flaps in, and by a couple notches, I mean 25 degrees. I'm not going to worry about deploying those landing gears just yet. About 50%, nope, 75% power. Just like I was saying earlier, fully idle on my stick would bring us into reverse, so it's just something to keep in mind. But I like the speed we're going at so far. We're going to break out of autopilot probably in the next minute. Oh, you know what? Autopilot can bring us just a little bit more over to that general area. We'll get a slight left turn in here. And then we'll bail out of autopilot once we're set up there. But ooh, look at that! Ray trace shadows looking beautiful in this cockpit. But once you get the battery systems down and so forth, it's a pretty fantastic plane to fly. Especially when it's not doing backflips on the ground with 1000% power in reverse. It's definitely nice not dealing with that. I'm gonna go ahead and go idle really quick. I'm gonna turn on our battery. Bring in those electric engines. The only reason I do that, you don't have to. You can just go with the turbine engines. It's just nice having that extra safety net of power, just in case you need to do something or pull a go-around. And you're just ready for those situations without having to panic, get things situated, go like, oh, I need to turn, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I like having that just as a backup plan. I still can't get over the way the landing gear panel like sticks out so far. It's crazy. But anyways, we gotta focus, folks. Here I am, an external cam and showcase camera, just goofing off. We got passengers to land here. And while we do land, I want to put a disclaimer. I'm going to title this video to flying the ES-30 bug-free. And there might be some other things that I don't know, like once you dive more into the other autopilot features, I'm not sure how they work. But from the extent that I go into autopilot with nav and heading and so forth, it all works perfectly, which is great to see. You don't have to worry about, because it's all set into the plane already when you start up and it does that cutscene. So your flight plan's there, it's all ready to go for you, which is great. But yeah, so there's something else inside the autopilot. I'm just talking about all the major stuff that prevented people from flying the aircraft. I thought I would share my findings, so that way if you've been sitting on the ES-30 and not flying it, this should make it to where you can fly it too. I don't know why the experience would be any different, so be sure to let me know. Hopefully this will get you up in the air with it, because again, been having a fantastic time with it, and hopefully you will as well. I still gotta get better with landings with this, but hopefully we can get a good one in here. Because it's not too long of a runway, so we'll want to get on the ground relatively early. We'll stick around that 115 knots to 120 range. I feel like that's kind of the sweet spot for this aircraft. Clear those trees right there. All right, clear the trees.
Mike Yankee Charlie Bravo traffic CTWN 32 Bravo Alpha Oscar 1 Tree 1 4.
And don't worry, the plane does stop rather quickly with the reverse thrust. Oh, okay, we're here. Wow, okay. I didn't realize I was that close. Oh my goodness. Alright. Well, I was wanting a better landing than that, but... Unbelievable. I didn't realize I was that close to the ground. That's always a thing with a new plane is, you know, you get so familiar with where the ground's at when you're pitched back and doing the flare. I'm not there yet with this plane, obviously. We have arrived. People are going to be upset back there. I guarantee that. This thing can turn. Nice. Well, other than the very hard landing, but see, again, you don't hear any noise. So I hope Asobo can get that going too, because just having that audio effect of, you know, with everything regarding moving on the ground, the landing, it adds a lot to it. So the fact that this one just has basically nothing is a bit of a shame. So I'm sure that'll change down the road. But would love to see that improved for sure. But cool, everybody. There we go. Another flight in the ES-30 completed in career mode. Really happy I was able to pick this up, and it's not just a passive income machine anymore. And again, shout out to that rear cargo door. I don't know why that makes it forget about its backflip days, but it does, so... It works out. I'm hoping we get a decent score out of this. I mean, I feel like everything was good. The landing can be worked on, obviously. Let's go ahead and taxi. I know we're going to park right here.
Mike, Yankee Charlie Bravo, traffic CDWN 32
Oh.
Bravo, Alpha Oscar 1
I don't know why my electric engine shut off, but that's okay. We're on the ground anyways. It just knows my preference, I guess, for taxiing. We'll go with that. Alright, park it on up and shut it on down. Mission success! I hope we got a good score. Oh. I don't know why that's so low. I mean, I know we got a hard landing in there, but that feels kind of low. Whatever, we still got an A. It's all good. And a nice 337,000 credits for about 35 minutes of flying, maybe. That's the one thing I love about passenger transport missions is it's the only mission set that has a nice range of length of missions. So you have really short ones that can go for about 5 minutes, to these that are about 35 minutes, and then of course ones into the hour and a half. And it's nice having that selection of mission lengths. And I'd love to see that for other mission types as well. I'm sure that'll oh, it didn't? Oh, see, look at that. We're fine. Everything's good. Just gotta work on those landings is all. But cool, everybody. Again, hopefully this video helped you out. And you have the same luck with the passenger cargo door, making it to where you can also fly the ES-30. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time. See ya.